I still remember that electrifying moment as if it were splashed in neon across my soul. The moment at my wife's promotion party when, in front of all our colleagues and relatives, she unleashed a vicious insult that cut through me like a shard of broken glass. In those first 100 heartbeats, every dream we had once built together, every sacrifice I'd made in silence, shattered into a storm of disbelief, humiliation, and a burning resolve. Her scornful words, dripping with arrogance, were a public condemnation of everything I thought I stood for. That night, amid the glitter of celebration and clinking champagne glasses, I vowed that I would no longer be defined by her shallow judgment. I would instead channel the sting of that betrayal into the fuel for a comeback so audacious that, in the end, I would buy her company and fire her, transforming my pain into the cornerstone of my own success. For years, I had believed that our marriage was a partnership built on mutual support and shared ambition. I had dedicated countless late nights and weekends to our life together, working hard at my job, saving every spare dollar, and dreaming of a future where our success would be celebrated by both of us. I took pride in providing for our family, in the careful planning that had allowed us to mark every milestone with hope and determination. The very thought of her promotion was supposed to be a shared triumph, a moment where we both basked in the glow of achievement. Yet that evening, instead of congratulating me or even offering a reassuring smile, she chose to demean me in front of everyone, reducing my efforts to a laughingstock with a single, merciless remark. I recall the scene as if it were etched into my memory. The venue was opulent, a spacious banquet hall draped in elegant decor, with soft lighting that lent an air of celebration to the occasion. Colleagues mingled in clusters, their voices a mix of admiration and polite chatter, while I sat at our table, trying to maintain a smile even as her words echoed in my ears. "I guess some men just aren't cut out for real success," she said with a disdainful laugh that ricocheted off the walls and into the silence that followed. Her tone was cold, dismissive, an insult aimed not just at my work ethic but at my very identity as a partner, a provider, and a man who believed in the promise of a shared future. The room fell into a brief, awkward hush before laughter and chatter resumed, but for me time had slowed to a standstill. In that agonizing moment, everything I had built seemed to collapse. I felt as if every ounce of my self-worth was being eroded by her callous words. The dreams we had nurtured, our plans for a new home, for a secure retirement, for a future where our success would echo in every corner of our lives, were suddenly reduced to nothing. The betrayal was not just personal, it was public, a spectacle for everyone to see. I could see the pity in the eyes of some colleagues, the barely concealed smirks of others, and even the awkward glances exchanged between family members who had once celebrated our union. That night, I left the party in silence, my heart pounding with a mix of shock, sorrow, and an emerging, unyielding determination to never let anyone define my worth again. In the days that followed, I oscillated between an overwhelming desire for revenge and a deep, introspective quest for self-discovery. I retreated into the solitude of my study, where I poured out every thought into my journal. Each page became a battleground for my emotions, every word a confrontation with the bitter reality of her insult. I wrote about the long hours I had devoted to our life together, the sacrifices made in the hope of building a future we could both enjoy, and the painful realization that all of that seemed to have been thrown away with a single, callous remark. As I filled page after page with my raw, unfiltered pain, I also began to see the seeds of a new beginning. In that journal, I vowed that I would not allow her cruelty to hold me back. Instead, I would use it to fuel a transformation so complete that, one day, she would have no choice but to face the consequences of her actions. I spent sleepless nights pondering the next steps. The thought of letting her have her moment of superiority was unbearable. I started researching not only ways to rebuild my self-worth but also methods to regain control of our financial future. It was during one of these long, solitary nights that I stumbled upon a notion so audacious and, in its own way, poetic. If she could diminish me publicly, then I could quietly turn the tables by reclaiming and leveraging what was rightfully mine. I began to dream of a future where I would harness my own potential to such an extent that I would rise to heights she never imagined. A future where, in the end, I would buy her company and fire her, leaving her to face the consequences of her own choices. That dream, though it started as a flicker in the darkness, soon ignited a blazing fire inside me. I started setting new, ambitious goals, both personal and professional, that were aimed at reclaiming my dignity and establishing a legacy built on hard work and integrity. I re-examined my financial portfolio, scrutinized our savings and investments, and began to plan for the long term. I reminded myself that every dollar I had saved, every ounce of effort I had put into building our life, was not wasted but was a stepping stone to a future that I would shape entirely on my own terms. I resolved that I would not let her words define my destiny. Instead, I would work even harder, invest even more wisely, and let my actions speak volumes. Every setback, every moment of humiliation, became a brick in the foundation of a new life, one that was marked not by the failures of the past but by the promise of an extraordinary future. As I sat at my desk, surrounded by the scattered pages of my journal and the quiet hum of the night, I began to draft a plan. I envisioned a future where I would not only recover the lost trust and respect but also build an empire that would stand as a testament to my strength. I meticulously outlined every step I needed to take, securing a new job that matched my ambitions, investing in opportunities that could multiply my savings, and eventually stepping into a leadership role that would allow me to shape the future of the industry I had dedicated myself to. I set clear, measurable goals for myself, short-term milestones that would lead to long-term success, and with each goal I felt my resolve solidify. I was determined to transform my pain into power, to let every cruel word be a reminder of what I was capable of achieving when I refused to be diminished by the actions of others. Even as these plans took shape, I found myself grappling with the complex emotions that came with betrayal. There were moments when the memory of her insult would crash over me like a tidal wave, a sudden, overwhelming flood of anger and sorrow that left me breathless. In those times, I sought refuge in the things that had always grounded me: long walks in the early morning, quiet moments of meditation, and the unyielding support of a few trusted friends who reminded me that my value was intrinsic. I began to see that while her words had wounded me deeply, they had also sparked a transformation that was slowly but surely reshaping every aspect of my life. I started to recognize that every bitter tear, every sleepless night, was not a mark of defeat but a prelude to a powerful comeback. I also began to consider the broader implications of her actions on our family. The college fund we had so carefully built for our son, the dreams we had shared, now hung in the balance. I thought of the future we had planned, a future filled with hope, education, and a legacy of achievement, and felt a renewed sense of responsibility. Not only did I need to reclaim my own self-worth, but I also had to protect the future of our child. This realization added an extra layer of urgency to my plans. I was no longer just fighting for personal vindication. I was fighting to secure a better life for the ones who depended on me. Every decision I made, every step I took, was now infused with the understanding that the sacrifices of the past would pave the way for a brighter, more secure future. With every passing day, my determination grew stronger. I immersed myself in the study of financial strategies and career development. I reached out to mentors, attended workshops, and networked with individuals who had overcome similar setbacks. Their stories, filled with wisdom and hard-earned success, resonated deeply with me. I learned that resilience wasn't about erasing the past but about using it as the bedrock upon which to build something even greater. I took their advice to heart, integrating it into my own strategy for recovery and growth. Each piece of advice, each new connection became a thread in the tapestry of my new life, a tapestry woven from the threads of perseverance, innovation, and an unwavering belief in my own potential. In the quiet solitude of those turbulent months, my journal transformed into a living record of my journey, a chronicle of pain, hope, and the slow, steady process of rebuilding my identity. I filled pages with my fears and my dreams, with the harsh realities of betrayal and the brilliant flashes of insight that emerged from it. I began to see that the betrayal, as crushing as it had been, was also a catalyst for change, a necessary shock that forced me to re-examine every aspect of my life and to rise above the limitations imposed on me by someone else's selfish desires. I vowed that I would use this experience as the cornerstone of a new beginning, one that would not only secure my own future but would also set an example for anyone who had ever been diminished by the actions of another. Thus, every day became a testament to my resilience. With each passing moment, I took deliberate, measured steps toward a future that was entirely my own, one where I would not be defined by the bitterness of the past but by the limitless possibilities of what I could create. I set goals that were as ambitious as they were personal, determined to transform every setback into a stepping stone toward success. And as the sun rose on each new day, I felt a quiet, unyielding hope that the pain of yesterday was merely the prelude to the triumphs of tomorrow. The day the sale finally closed felt like the turning of a page in a book I'd thought would never end. I remember sitting in a quiet conference room at the real estate office, the contract spread out in front of me, the ink barely dry on the signature lines. Every detail of that moment, every hesitant breath, every resolute stroke of my pen, echoed the transformation that had taken place within me over the past several months. The house, once the sanctuary we'd built together, was now officially mine to dispose of as I saw fit, and I had decided that I would leave her with nothing. Not only had I recovered every dollar that represented our shared future, but I had also reclaimed my dignity and, with it, the promise of a new beginning. In the wake of the sale, I stepped out into the cool afternoon light with a heavy yet resolute heart. The property that had once been a home now symbolized everything I had lost, and everything I was determined to rebuild. I took a slow, measured walk through the neighborhood, recalling the countless memories that had filled those rooms. Laughter echoing in the dining room, late-night conversations on the back porch, the gentle hum of everyday life that had once brought comfort and joy. Now, with every step, I felt a bittersweet mixture of nostalgia and liberation. The past, with all its promises and betrayals, was behind me, and a new future, one defined solely by my own aspirations, stretched out ahead. With the proceeds from the sale securely transferred into my new accounts, I began to reshape every facet of my life. I wasn't just recovering financially, I was rebuilding my identity from the ground up. I immersed myself in career advancement, pursuing opportunities that I had once dismissed in favor of maintaining the status quo. I updated my resume, reached out to industry mentors, and networked with a determination fueled by the memory of every derisive remark and every dismissive glance that had once cut me deeply. Every new job interview, every project I led, became a resounding declaration that I was not defined by the past. I was forging a future where my skills, my hard work, and my integrity were the only measures of my worth. Slowly but surely, I began to receive offers that not only matched my financial needs but also respected the passion and dedication that I had poured into every aspect of my professional life. Beyond the tangible achievements at work, the emotional transformation was even more profound. I sought solace and wisdom in therapy, where each session peeled back layers of bitterness and regret until all that remained was a raw, unyielding resolve to be better, stronger, kinder, and more self-assured than ever before. I learned to forgive not because I wanted to excuse her actions, but because I understood that forgiveness was the key to freeing myself from the chains of lingering resentment. Every tear shed during those sessions was a step toward liberation, a necessary process to ensure that I wouldn't carry the weight of betrayal into the future. Slowly, I began to see my scars not as marks of defeat but as emblems of survival, each one a testament to the battles I had fought and won. I also made a conscious effort to rebuild the network of relationships that had once sustained me. I reconnected with old friends, the ones who had stood by me when my world seemed to collapse. We gathered for long, heartfelt dinners and spontaneous get-togethers, where the conversation flowed freely and the burdens of the past were shared and understood. In these moments of reconnection, I rediscovered the true meaning of friendship and realized that my worth was affirmed by those who truly cared about me, not by the shallow judgments of someone who had abandoned our shared dreams. Their encouragement was a constant reminder that even in the face of profound betrayal, the bonds of genuine human connection could provide a lifeline to a brighter, more hopeful future. Simultaneously, I allowed myself to explore creative outlets that had long been neglected. I took up writing again, long introspective essays that poured out my journey of heartbreak, resilience, and eventual triumph. Late at night, I would sit at my desk with a single lamp lighting up the pages of my notebook, pouring every raw emotion into words that became both a personal catharsis and a testament to my newfound strength. I even began to share these writings on a blog, receiving messages from strangers who recognized parts of their own struggles in my story. Each comment, each word of encouragement, reinforced the idea that my journey was not just about reclaiming my financial stability or professional status, but about rebuilding my soul. My creative endeavors became a powerful reminder that true beauty often arises from the deepest wounds. As the weeks turned into months, the cumulative effects of my efforts became increasingly tangible. Professionally, I found myself at the helm of projects that redefined my role within the company. My contributions were now celebrated in meetings, and I had become a go-to person for strategic insights and innovative solutions. The respect I had longed for was no longer elusive. It was a clear, shining beacon of my relentless determination. Every presentation I gave, every new contract we secured, was a small, powerful victory that proved I was in control of my own destiny. With every accolade and every nod of approval, I felt that I was stepping further away from the shadow of my past, a shadow that had once been cast by the bitter betrayal of a love turned sour. On the personal front, the changes were equally transformative. I reevaluated my values and redefined what success meant to me. I began to set ambitious, clear goals that were aligned with my true self, goals that weren't about proving something to anyone else, but about fulfilling my own potential. I enrolled in advanced courses to further hone my skills, attended leadership seminars, and even began to mentor younger professionals who had faced similar hardships. In sharing my experiences, I discovered that the very pain that had once threatened to break me could, when embraced, become the foundation for inspiring others. My journey became a source of empowerment not just for me, but for a community of individuals who believed that every setback was a prelude to a greater comeback. I also re-examined my relationship with my family, especially my son, whose future had once been so intricately tied to our shared dreams. I made it my mission to ensure that he felt supported and secure, despite the upheaval in our lives. We spent long afternoons together, talking about our aspirations and planning for his education with a renewed focus. I promised him and myself that no matter how far I had to travel down this rugged path of recovery, his future would remain untouched by the choices of others. That promise became a driving force, a reminder that every decision I made was not just for me, but for the legacy I wished to leave for him, a legacy of resilience, integrity, and unwavering self-worth. In those long, reflective moments as I reviewed every detail of my transformation, from the painstaking process of selling our home to the rigorous rebuilding of my professional and personal life, I began to see a future emerge that was vibrant and full of promise. The pain of betrayal, while it had scarred me deeply, had also illuminated a truth I could no longer ignore, that I possessed an inner strength, a capacity for reinvention, that was far greater than I had ever imagined. Each small victory, every bit of progress, became a stepping stone toward a life that was defined by my own terms. A life where my worth was self-assured and my dreams were within reach. Every day as I continued to press forward with unwavering determination, I felt that old wound, her bitter dismissal, the sting of her parting words, begin to heal. The anger and sorrow that had once consumed me were now transformed into a quiet confidence, a deep-seated knowledge that I was capable of overcoming any challenge. With each new milestone in my career, every financial gain that fortified my independence, and every heartfelt conversation that reaffirmed my value, I was steadily reclaiming my identity. I began to see that my journey was not merely a series of unfortunate events, but a tapestry of experiences that had shaped me into a person of immense resilience and boundless potential. In the soft light of early mornings and the quiet solitude of late nights, I found that every moment of pain was gradually replaced by a sense of hope, a promise that the future I was building was bright, secure, and undeniably mine. I envisioned a horizon filled with new opportunities, where I would continue to push the boundaries of what I could achieve, and where the echoes of betrayal would fade into the background, replaced by the resounding beat of a life reclaimed. I was determined that the lessons learned from every tear, every hard-fought victory, would guide me as I forged ahead, not as a victim of circumstances, but as a warrior armed with the power of my own resilience. The day the final decision was made felt like the long-awaited moment when the storm finally broke, an exhale after years of holding my breath. I sat in a quiet conference room at my lawyer's office, the soft murmur of distant traffic barely audible as I signed the last pages of the settlement documents. With each signature, I felt a weight lift, as if I were shedding the old skin of a life marred by betrayal and stepping into a future that was entirely my own. My wife had told me she was done, that she no longer wanted to share our life, and I had chosen, with quiet resolve and calculated self-respect, not to tell her about the $2 million inheritance that I had secured behind closed doors. Instead of letting her leave me with any leverage over our shared dreams, I let her go without a word of resistance and in doing so reclaimed every bit of my self-worth. In the days after that final signature, I took long walks alone through the city, where the early morning light mingled with my thoughts and every step was a meditation on loss and renewal. I recalled the fateful night when she had coldly declared she was done, a moment that shattered our once promising future into fragments of despair. Yet, as I walked those quiet streets, I realized that each fragment had, in its own way, paved the path for the man I was becoming. I had chosen not to confront her about my newfound fortune. Instead, I silently vowed to build a life that was a testament to my inner strength and unwavering resolve. The secret of my $2 million inheritance, once a burden of guilt and complicated emotions, had become my lifeline, a resource that I was determined to use wisely. I consulted with top financial advisors and legal experts, meticulously planning every investment and every step of my future. Every dollar was carefully allocated to rebuild not only my personal financial security but also to invest in opportunities that would allow me to grow professionally. I diversified my portfolio, ventured into new business ideas, and set aside funds for projects that I believed in with a fierce passion. With each prudent decision, I reaffirmed that my worth was not tied to my past, but to my ability to forge a future that was independent and full of promise. Work became both my refuge and my battleground. I threw myself into my career with a fervor that transformed long nights at the office into epic quests for innovation and excellence. I took on leadership roles that had once seemed out of reach, and I began to carve a reputation as someone who could turn adversity into opportunity. Every project I led, every new initiative that blossomed under my guidance, was a declaration that I was not defined by a failed marriage or by the painful end of a shared dream. Instead, I was the architect of my own destiny. My colleagues soon recognized this shift. What was once quiet perseverance became dynamic leadership, and the board of directors began to trust my vision for the company's future. Every accolade and nod of approval was a resounding affirmation that I had reclaimed my identity through sheer determination and relentless hard work. Yet, even as my professional life soared, the emotional journey continued at a quieter, more introspective pace. I spent many late nights in solitude, sitting by the window as the city lights twinkled like distant stars, contemplating the twists of fate that had led me here. I allowed myself to grieve the loss of what once was, a marriage built on promises, now reduced to the echo of a final heartless, "I'm done." But in that grief I also discovered the raw material of renewal. Every tear I shed became a quiet vow that I would never again let anyone define my worth. I returned to therapy, where each session peeled back the layers of sorrow and anger, revealing the resilient core that had been hidden beneath the weight of betrayal. I learned to forgive, not for her sake but for my own liberation. Forgiveness, I discovered, was not about forgetting the pain, but about releasing its hold over my future. With every session, I reclaimed a bit more of the person I was meant to be, unburdened by the shadows of a love that had crumbled under its own deceit. In parallel with these inner transformations, I made a deliberate effort to rebuild and redefine my personal relationships. I reconnected with friends who had always seen my potential, forging deeper bonds through candid conversations and shared moments of vulnerability. We spent afternoons reminiscing about simpler times, discussing our hopes for the future, and affirming that our worth was not determined by external validation. I began to cultivate new friendships with people who valued authenticity over appearances, people who celebrated resilience and hard-won success. These relationships, built on trust and mutual respect, became the cornerstone of a new support network that helped me navigate the turbulent waters of personal reinvention. In the warmth of these connections, I found solace and a renewed belief in the power of community, a belief that even after the harshest betrayals, there was always a path toward healing and hope. As my inner world steadied, I also embarked on creative pursuits that became a vital outlet for my emotions. I returned to writing with a fervor that transformed the raw chaos of my thoughts into meticulously crafted essays and reflective journal entries. I poured every ounce of anger, sorrow, and burgeoning hope onto paper, each word a testament to the resilience that had been forged in the crucible of betrayal. My writing became not only a form of catharsis but also a way to articulate a vision for a future unburdened by the past. I even began to share these reflections on a personal blog, where strangers, people who had faced similar struggles, reached out with messages of empathy and encouragement. Their words resonated with me, affirming that my journey, though uniquely mine, was part of a larger, universal narrative of overcoming and renewal. The more I invested in my personal growth, the more my professional world began to reflect that inner strength. I was promoted to positions of greater responsibility, and I started to spearhead innovative projects that pushed the boundaries of our company's potential. The leadership that had once been dormant in me burst forth in every strategic meeting and every important decision. I was not only proving my worth to those who had once dismissed me, I was redefining the very essence of success in our organization. My initiatives led to tangible improvements, rising profits, new client acquisitions, and a revitalized company culture that prized authenticity and creativity over pretense and complacency. Every boardroom victory, every public acknowledgement of my contributions, was a quiet, powerful rebuttal to the painful words that had once left me shattered. In the midst of all these achievements, I never lost sight of the personal cost of that fateful betrayal. I remained acutely aware that the journey was not simply about professional success or financial security, it was about reclaiming every piece of my identity that had been chipped away by a love turned bitter. I revisited old photos and mementos of happier times, not with regret, but with a deep understanding that those memories were part of the tapestry of my life, beautiful in their own right, yet no longer binding me to a future I did not deserve. I began to redefine my goals for the future, setting new ambitions that were both practical and aspirational. I envisioned a life where I could travel, pursue my creative passions, and perhaps even write a book about the transformative power of resilience. Every plan I made was infused with the hard-won wisdom of someone who had faced the worst of betrayal and emerged not only unbroken but empowered. As I looked toward the horizon, I saw a future that was rich with possibility, a future where I would continue to build on the foundation of my recovery and create a legacy that honored both my struggles and my triumphs. I planned to launch new projects that combined my professional expertise with my passion for innovation, aiming to set a new standard in the industry. I also set my sights on mentorship, eager to share my story with young professionals who might one day face similar heartbreak. I wanted them to know that while betrayal can leave scars, those scars can also be transformed into symbols of strength, a roadmap for a life defined by perseverance and self-belief. Every evening, as I sat in the quiet of my study reviewing the day's achievements and planning for the next, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. I realized that the path I had traveled, fraught with pain, marked by loss, yet illuminated by the unwavering light of resilience, had reshaped me into someone capable of not only surviving but thriving. The betrayal that had once seemed like the end of everything had, in truth, been the catalyst for my rebirth, a painful but necessary journey toward becoming the person I was always meant to be. Now, standing at the threshold of this new era, I feel an overwhelming sense of pride and determination. I have reclaimed my future with every calculated step, every decisive action, and every heartfelt reflection. The legacy I am building is not defined by the betrayals of the past but by the strength I have discovered within myself. A strength that promises a future of endless possibility, where I am the master of my destiny, and where every setback is transformed into a stepping stone for even greater triumphs.